Hello and welcome to the Guardian Film Show, where the week's edition is obviously dominated by just one film and one man, a great British institution, an agent on a mission, irresistible to women and seemingly indestructible too. But enough for the time being about the Russell Brand documentary. We should also be looking at the new James Bond film, Spectre.
Mexico City. What were you doing there?
I was taking some overdue holiday.
Round up the unusual suspects. Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn play low-level high rollers in the rambling poker drama Mississippi Grind. Mighty Marlon Brando sends messages from beyond the grave in Listen to Me Marlon. And from Brando to Brand, here's Russell rising again in the Second Coming.
Che Guevara, Malcolm X, Jesus and Gandhi. Why are these people icons?
I think we should probably start with Spectre, though. It's the 24th official 007 outing, haunted by the ghosts of all those Bonds gone before. Let's take a look.
This organization, do you know what it's called?
Its name is Spectre.
The Dead Are Alive runs the opening caption of Bond 24. And with that, we're off. From Mexico City to Rome, to Tangier and to London. Bond is chasing a posthumous lead left by M, and the trail leads to a vast criminal network and a shadowy villain with a very personal grudge. Peter, dare I say it, I much preferred this to Skyfall.
I really liked Skyfall. I thought this was as good and better. It delivered all the action and the style. It was very amusingly written. I was quite relieved that it didn't go in for a classic Roger Moore action plus quip in the traditional way of somebody gets eaten by a crocodile and then Bond says, oh, it looks like he's stepped out for a bite, something like that. It doesn't do that, but it still has humour. It's quite trad in a way,
yeah, it is.
But done with superlative style. I mean, it just looks like an absolute treat. And even the action stuff, I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh yeah, CGI. Yeah, I see. Green screen, green screen, green screen, green screen. There was lots of stuff in Mexico City which looked pretty real to me. I, with my hand on my heart, I don't know how much of that was real. But my goodness, it just really delivered a sledgehammer punch. And it was very, very bravura filmmaking, actually, that first scene.
It's almost the most kind of high-toned European Bond film since sort of From Russia with Love. It almost looked like at times Mendes had been watching something like The Great Beauty. It's got that kind of velvety blackness and opulence to it.
It's very
well.
European. There's no Americanisms. I can't think of there's no American locations or American characters. It's all about the Brits abroad, not in America. And it sticks to the new thing of the villain has to be a high-class European actor. Mads Mikkelsen, Mathieu Amalric, Javier Bardem, and now, of course, Christoph Waltz. It'd be interesting to know how far you can take that, or can we please have a non-European baddie, or, as I have sometimes said in the past, what's wrong with a woman baddie? But Christoph Waltz, again, I mean, he's given slightly less to do than I thought, actually, in terms of screen time and line count.
He's great, though. Glows with
great
evil.
Stuff, especially the boardroom scene, an old-fashioned evil boardroom scene where he shot Shadow. I mean, it should be camp. It should be real Austin Powers camp, but it's not. It's really well done.
What took you so long?
Catherine, what did you make of it? You're a Bond fan, generally?
I preferred Skyfall, and I'm not a massive Bond fan, but I thought that had a lot more charge to it, and the relationship between Bond and the villain, so Javier Bardem and Christoph Waltz here, which is all about something in his childhood and not a problem. And I had a lot more sort of energy to it, I thought, the relationship there, and I thought, Christoph Waltz was just this little sort of titch, and, sports casual. I mean, it didn't kind of touch me. I thought the lady romances were a little bit under-exciting
They
as well.
were a bit underdrawn, considering, you got Monica Bellucci and Lea Seydoux in there. I thought they'd give them a little bit more to kind of work with.
And, you think all the dead are alive, and the recently bereaved are very, very horny, because both of them have just lost loved ones that James has been involved in their death, and then they're like, whoa, or something
up
like
for
that.
it.
Yeah, well. For me, it didn't quite. I mean, I liked it. It obviously looks great. and it sort of goes along. There's a lot of plot holes, and the action sequences didn't, for me, it looks great. I see what you mean about great beauty, and there's a very extended sequence in Rome, but that car chase, it's a very, very long car chase through the streets of Rome. It's not that exciting, actually. I mean, it looks lovely, but I wasn't sort of edge of my seat.
Is this really what you want? Living in the shadows, hunting, being hunted, always alone.
Without obviously spoiling it, do you think this is a swan song for Craig? Where does the franchise go from here?
I don't know. I hope he doesn't quit. I know that he's under pressure. He probably feels I don't know, if he's done 4 now, he might think, look, where are we going with this? Where are we going in my career? This is it. It's like doing Doctor Who. You don't want to keep on doing it, otherwise you'll be stuck with it. And you've got to remember, this is somebody who before Bond had a very, very serious and substantial, classy career. I mean, before that he was playing, Ted Hughes opposite Gwyneth Paltrow, for goodness sake. I don't know. I mean, I think there was this Time Out interview with Daniel Craig where he appeared to be in a very bad mood. I'm thinking now that he was just in a bad mood. I'm not sure that he seriously meant all that stuff. But
it's a hostage to fortune.
It is a hostage to fortune.
If I do another one, it'll only
be for the money. But who cares? I mean, of course it's only for the money. This is show business. Nobody holds that against him.
Well,
I certainly don't. Yeah, exactly.
I don't stop to think about it.
Catherine, what do you reckon? He should quit while he's ahead?
I think it's possible to see a flicker of boredom in his eyes in this one, I'm afraid. I thought he was very good, actually. I really liked him, and I thought the supporting cast, Fiennes is great, Wishaw is great. They're all really good, actually. Scott was good, Andrew Scott was good. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I kind of like the fact he's off message, and I'd like it if he'd carry on with that whole I'd rather slash my wrist and yet still do it for the money. That'd be great.
It was me, James. The author of all your pain.
Daniel Craig bidding farewell to Bond, maybe, in the elegant Spectre. And assuming that the producers are in search of a replacement, our very next film may provide a contender.
Hello. You're a sex addict, is that right?
I don't know if it's right, but it's fun.
How many women would you estimate you have bedded?
I don't like to put a number on it because it makes me look like a sexist, chauvinist pig.
999,999 girls.
Russell Brand is a man on a mission, or possibly a whole heap of missions. He wants to be famous, he wants to get laid, he wants to be famous, and to spark a full-blown revolution. Brand believes he may be the Messiah. Jeremy Paxman thinks he's just a naughty boy.
I've been in crowded clubs with him when he walks across, and literally I saw women pointing to the toilet saying, I will meet you in there now for some kind of degrading exchange of fluids.
Catherine, what's your view on Russell Brand?
Well, this changed it a bit and made me like him more. I thought we'd reached peak Brand for certainly quite a long time ago, and one's tolerance level was pretty on the floor. But this, I thought it actually sort of explained why he was doing this in quite a logical and interesting way, quite psychologically interesting. And there's a lot of, it's basically a promo ultimately. You can go along with, this woman is going into it with intentions that aren't that exactly, but it is that. And I think it explains why he's so winning and why he so immediately kind of works on you when he's allowed to.
Yeah.
I thought he came out of it really well. There's clips that of him on the morning TV show in America where
that
he just makes
great, wasn't
mincemeat of them. Yeah, he is. He's undeniably very, very special.
I won't have the rifle lamp in the Utopia. I'll give that back.
Okay.
I'll flog that for a real rifle.
Peter, what do you reckon?
I'm fascinated by Russell Brand. I've always thought he's very funny, and my only kind of qualm about movies like this is it doesn't give you any hint of how funny he is, because it's all about his new political life. I think that after the general election there was, I think I'm right in saying, on the left, a certain amount of sheepishness about, oh Christ, what were we thinking, promoting Russell Brand when, oh my God, all he achieved was stopping young people voting and bolstering the Conservative victory. That's all it was. But then Jeremy Corbyn came along, and we thought, no, actually Russell Brand, like it or not, like him or not, he is in touch with a groundswell of dissentient opinion. That is just bloody-minded and knockabout and isn't going to engage with the centre ground in that sort of Andy Burnham, Blairite way. And that's what Russell Brand is all about. And I think it is interesting because he's absolutely impervious to mockery or to conversation of any sort. I've watched lots of stuff with Russell Brand, and part of me is always thinking, is it like an act? Is he going to stop doing it and behave like ordinary mortals? And the answer is no, he's not. That's what he's like all the time.
Yeah.
25 hours a day.
And always
he's
was,
like
even
that.
as a kid.
Yeah, amazing. He always makes mincemeat of boring, straight journalists and interviewers who try to take the mickey out of him, and Russell Brand absolutely hammers them, including...
Because he's not following that script.
Because
that
he's not following
everybody kind of assumes that you have to follow.
Exactly. And people like Jeremy Paxman and Evan Davis, they all just wind up being his straight man, and they never challenge him on detail. And neither does this film, that's the only thing. I want somebody to say, even if we can see Russell entertainingly refusing to answer, saying, OK, Russell, take me through it. What happens in your revolution? What happens on day one, day two? Well, not day two. How do you imagine it happening? If it is, as I understand it, a mixture of Che-style uprising and some sort of spiritual rehab of the sort that revolutionised Russell Brand's own life, then how does it work out in practice?
Okay. So what's the ideology then?
Well, that's where I get into a bit of trouble.
One of the subjects makes quite an astute point about class, I thought, as well, which says that he's like from the working class and he beat the odds, so he's a success. And therefore, it's typical then for them to just think, I'm lucky, and not question the system that kind of elevated them. And why he's run into trouble is because that's what he's doing.
I'm not sure I fully go along with that, actually. With Russell, I don't think he does need to sort of break it down. I think he needs to latch on to somebody else who can do all that stuff. And he is, like when he said to the Occupy people...
What would be your role? To make this message interesting to listen to.
I think that is sort of what you need, and, that's OK.
People believe change is possible, then it's possible. If you believe it, then it's true.
I think what he needs is people like him, like Noel Gallagher, who come from that same class, who are sort of part of the establishment, not part of the establishment. And he was able to sort of challenge him in a way that others weren't. And I would have been interested to see that happen, rather than just Noel Gallagher being funny in a talking head way, but him actually questioning him. And on things like class, that would have been interesting.
Instead, you've got Russell Brand going for spiritual, wisdom to sort of Mike Tyson and Simon Anstel.
Yes, that seems a shame. It didn't seem quite punching above the weight.
The sexual politics of Russell Brand are also left kind of pretty much untouched. I was fascinated here that he had one of his formative experiences was having a prostitute binge with his father in a hotel room in Hong Kong. Yeah, exactly. What a lovely moment. This is slightly too much information, and yet not enough information at the same time.
He's gone, this is shit fame, I want proper fame, and that's why he's obsessed with these people who transcend celebrity and become representative of much more than that.
You think he's Gandhi because you only ever see photos of him going around in a towel, much like I do. But he was like a person with an ego, and I would argue that narcissism and egotism are a vital component for anyone who's going to change the world.
Russell Brand in leather trousers, kicking against the powers that be. And if that doesn't appeal, you may decide to take a gamble on Mississippi Grind, rolling down the river in search of pots of gold. Your money, your choice.
Can you put me down for 5 tonight, Hawaii over Gonzaga? I have it. I have the money. I literally have the money right here in my hand. I'm looking at it. Oh. Hey, JP? JP?
The frowsy, bluesy Mississippi Grind casts Ben Mendelsohn as Jerry, a snake-eyed loser dreaming of the big time, dreaming of New Orleans. He needs a change in his fortunes and a fresh throw of the dice. Ryan Reynolds' smooth player may be his lucky charm.
I don't care about winning. Where did you come from?
Catherine, I was going to say they don't make films like this anymore, and yet it seems they just have.
Yeah, it's got a really agreeable, cineast, laid-back, lovely, vibey thing to it, hasn't it? But I mean, why don't they make films like this anymore? Probably because they don't make any money. I sort of think, ironically, this may not kind of rake it in. It's very, very amiable, isn't it? And it's the kind of film that's very easy to watch. But it doesn't sort of quite strike gold in the way that you're hoping, I think.
So you're saying the ending undoes the good work that went before?
I think a little bit. I think it seems uncertain about whether or not some people are sort of born gamblers and have got a very good poker face, and whether or not if you don't care about winning, like Ryan Reynolds' character, then you have an easier lot in life than somebody who really does care about winning, like Ben Mendelsohn's character, or whether it's about whether you're born lucky and whether being brave enough to just take a chance and blow everything is the thing. There seems to be a lot of sort of things going on, and at the end it seemed to put its chips on a square that it was a surprise to me and a disappointment. And because I did really enjoy watching it, most of it, very much.
I'm Curtis.
Curtis. Nice, like Tony.
No, like Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield, yeah.
Okay, I'm Jerry.
Like Lewis.
No.
There's something to be said, though, for, we've got so many kind of cookie-cutter films coming out, that's something that just kind of wanders and rambles.
It just wanders along. It has almost a sort of documentary feel, because you're waiting for some twist. You're waiting for one of them to double-cross the other, or one of them to have had some secret plan going on all the time. And that sort of is happening and sort of not. And it kind of just rolls along in this very sort of 1975 way, which I loved, really. It's like those buddy movies that used to get made all the time in the 1970s, like California Split and things like that, which is a gambling movie. It's difficult to make a gambling movie work. Gambling is exciting if you're the one doing the gambling, and if you're the one with money riding on it, then it's exciting. If you're an onlooker watching somebody who may lose all their money, that's exciting. But if you're an onlooker watching a film about somebody who isn't really going to lose all their money, they're just pretending, then, well, you've got a problem, unless you've got something very interesting about the gambling itself. Yeah. It's interesting. You think, well, if you don't show them losing all their money, then you're not being real about gambling. In fact, that is arguably another form of piety, because in the real world, people gamble all the time and they're fine with it. So I'm not necessarily anti a kind of happier ending. I thought this was, just moment by moment, minute by minute, it's very watchable.
Next guy that comes out of the bathroom, if he's wearing glasses, we stay. If he's wearing glasses, just
$50. You're on.
yes!
Ben Mendelsohn is really good, actually. I think it's actually one of his best performances, because he doesn't do his tough guy routine or his mad, I am a weirdo routine. He's actually quite likeable as a character, and he reminds you he's a very good actor. He's a really interesting performer. Ryan Reynolds isn't bad either, but he is, and Woody Allen's immortal words, he has to go off and have to take his handsome lesson in a minute. That's the thing. Ryan Reynolds, he's not bad. He's a good actor, and he's done some good stuff actually. But I think he's slightly outclassed by Mendelsohn, who has the more interesting role.
Fair play to Ryan Reynolds, though, for taking on these kind of roles.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
He's good. I think he's better than that in this, and I think it's a really good fit for him, this role, because it's got that strange thing that you sort of, he's so smug, Ryan Reynolds, and you actually can't help but like him, and increasingly so, really. And, it's just a pleasure to watch a bromance, which is basically what this is, between two actors that one really likes. I mean, I love Ben Mendelsohn, and increasingly like Ryan Reynolds, and it's kind of, they're cute together, You wanted more of that, less of kind of the backstory or the kind of whether or not this dice will fall on that square. I mean, who gives a damn,
Good things happen when you're around, when you're not, when you leave.
You get stabbed.
Yeah. I've been thinking, that home game, New Orleans, dissociated guy.
Tony Roundtree, yeah.
Boom, I want it.
The game has a $25,000 buy-in, Jerry.
Which is a lot.
Yep.
It's a lot. I got a plan.
I'm listening.
Double or Nothing, that's Mississippi Grind. We end this week's show with a ghost story of sorts, with the disembodied, digitised head of a departed screen legend and a stash of private recordings recently unearthed. Listen to Marlon.
5, 4, going down in an aeroplane, softly coming in. 1, 0.
Few Hollywood actors have been so pored over, so analysed, so talked about than Marlon Brando, and not least, it turns out, by Marlon Brando himself. Here he is, back again, 11 years after his death, to run us through his glorious, wayward life and times.
Everybody feels like they're a failure. Everybody feels they could have been a contender.
Peter, a fascinating film this. It was like attending a kind of weird seance.
It really was like that. It was like a kind of creepy science fiction nightmare about a mad scientist's plan to bring Marlon Brando back to life, which is sort of what it is. I mean, they've taken that digital map that apparently he made of his head, that fantastic kind of Roman emperor head, and had the brilliant idea of animating it to these audio tapes. And they don't do it all the time. If they'd done it all the way through the film, that would have been a bit much. It would have been real Max Headroom territory. But absolutely kind of brilliant. Those moments where you see this, again, this figure from the dead comes back and starts talking about how depressed he is or about his childhood. Sort of amazing, really.
Even from the time we're a kid, where we're throwing our oatmeal on the floor just to get attention from our mothers, acting is surviving.
And the story itself is so fascinating. You know, I mean, he was a kind of Colonel Kurtz figure in the end himself,
exactly.
wasn't he? This
Because
kind
that voice, it sounds Kurtzian in a way. It sounds as if he's kind of detached and he's gone way upriver, way upriver by the end. But it's interesting to find out how he was so tormented by his memories of his childhood and his boyhood. And all the stuff about his dad, I didn't know at all. I mean, I think, really, if you knew anything about Marlon Brando, you'd probably be up to speed about all that. I have to say, he really hated him. In terms of actual emotional disclosure, you probably get more from his actual public performances where he gave press conferences after the things that happened in his private family life. And you see, again, it's quite shocking to see this very reclusive figure burst into tears in front of the TV news cameras. It's actually quite disturbing. But I thought this was a really intriguing film.
You're left with the sense that he was too intelligent an actor to enjoy being an actor, and yet not quite intelligent enough to kind of boost himself out of that world and completely reject it.
Exactly. He was stuck between those two stools. And what's so sort of shocking or upsetting in a way is to be reminded of how he was the poster boy for acting as authenticity, as promulgated by the Stanislavskian figure of Stella Adler. And for him to say, acting is all phony bullshit, it's even worse in a way, because he was the kind of great white hope of acting as the avatar of emotional truth. And for him to have turned on it quite so emphatically.
And then he had nowhere to go.
And nowhere to go after that, exactly.
Lying for a living, that's what acting is. All I've done is just learned how to be aware of the process.
His renaissance as an actor was quite brief, really. I mean, we were really talking about The Godfather, and then his tiny role in Apocalypse Now, and then his...
Well, Last Tango as well.
And Last Tango, I'm so sorry, and Tango. And then this colossal payday for Superman and things like that, which actually, you see the deleted scenes from Superman, they didn't talk about it here, but the deleted Superman scenes restored lots of stuff that Marlon Brando had done, which were never shown. And it is actually quite interesting, actually. He's not a fool, he's still a really good actor, and even doing this stupid role for a lot of money, actually he was rather good.
And it's just after the sun has gone down. A star comes, the first star of the evening. Peace and love.
Director Stephen Riley collaborating with the dead on Listen to Me Marlon. And with that, we've bounced from the brand to the Brando, from the Spectre to the Ghost. My thanks to Peter and to Catherine and to you for watching. Take care out there. In the words of Spectre, we're all just kites dancing in a hurricane.